This is a Boundary Waters trip review, entering in at entry point number 52 on Brant Lake. Actually, enter on Round Lake here, paddle across Round Lake, do a little portage, and a couple other little quick stops before you officially enter the Boundary Waters on Brant Lake. Um, my group, I always do a photo book, and so I'm going to take you through our trip route and some of the pictures along the way. But we put in at entry point number 52, Round Lake to Brant Lake. Started on Sunday, May 16th, 2021, and came out the following Saturday. In between, from Round Lake, excuse me, Brant Lake, we um, basically did a loop, and so we crossed Brant Lake into um, Flying Lake, Green Lake, Bat Lake, which is where we stayed our first 2 nights. Did a little bit of day fishing, day tripping here along Gillis Lake and French Lake. And then we, after 2 nights here, we decided to um, head from Bat to Gillis to French. We crossed Powell Lake, West Fern Lake, Virgin Lake, and ultimately we ended up on Little Saganaga. Here, I'll show you on the other map, and ended up coming back down um, through Mora and Terry Lake, Crooked Lake, hit just momentarily Owl Lake, went across Tuscarora, and dared the 426 rod portage, stayed a couple nights on Missing Link Lake, and then headed back out. So, pretty good overall trip. Here's kind of the other overview. So here's 52, entry point 52, and here's our route. Brant Lake to Flying, Green Lake, 2 nights right here on this campsite at Bat, some day fishing, French, Powell, West Fern Lake, Virgin Lake, 2 nights here on this campsite on Little Saganaga, headed south and made our way back towards Tuscarora Lake. Every campsite was full during the summer of 2021 on Tuscarora Lake. We were going to stay there, ended up having to do this portage of, I think I said 426 rods, and then ended up staying here on Missing Link Lake for a couple nights and then headed back out. So let me show you some of the photos along the way. I'll go through this fairly quickly. Here we are entering that first series of portages. Can be very wet. We've done this route a few times, and definitely, you want to be prepared, especially in the spring. We went in May, and so you want to be prepared um, for some wet portages. One of the portages here, I think, right, yeah, I can't remember which one this is, but you're coming down some steep, um, a steep decline or incline, I guess, and then you have to portage down some stairs and put in. So that one can be a little bit challenging. Like I said, we went to Bat Lake. Our first night was here at, our first 2 nights were right here at this campsite. In the past, we've stayed here, but it was very overgrown. We always bring our Nemo bug out tent, always cook fresh pork steaks that night. Somebody got a leech on their foot, but this is that campsite there at Bat. Great place to watch the sunrise or sunset, I'm sorry. And what makes the Boundary Waters awesome is that camaraderie. This was fishing on Gillis and French Lake. That day we did a little bit of day fishing, and we had our lunch right here on French Lake. So these pictures right here are taking place on French Lake. There's another view of French Lake and our lunch spot. There's some pictures of us on Gillis. And here we are back at Bat Lake for our evening meal. The next day we got up and packed up and headed, as I mentioned, all the way down to Tuscarora Lake. Here we spent 2 more nights. And one of the portages in particular was a little bit difficult to find when we were getting um, into Virgin Lake here. We really struggled to find the portage in this area. There were a lot of little nooks and crannies. It was fairly overgrown. Finally, we were able to find it, but it did take some teamwork. And this was our seventh trip as a group, so we've done it a number of times. Getting into Little Saganaga, found a really nice lake. We our group likes to do different meals, so this was a pudgy pie night with some pasta and then some desserts. But this rock lookout was right here on Tuscarora Lake. Let me get back into where I'm sorry, Little Saganaga Lake was right here on this campsite. So uh, these photos here are looking out at that site from that site. I don't know if it was the time of the year. Oddly enough, the only fish that we caught that trip were lake trout. And so we always do one fish dinner, fish taco dinner. Otherwise, we're a catch and release group. But one night we do like to have fish tacos and sit around and enjoy a couple sips of one thing or another in our Nemo bug out tent. Um, Spent the next day fishing, mostly a rainy day there. And again, here's kind of our route once we decided to leave Tuscarora. Our Little Saganaga, we headed toward Tuscarora. Uh, and this was a pretty wet, rainy day. And so we just decided we're going to keep moving as long as we can. We weren't in the rain the whole day, but it was definitely overcast and had periods of rain. Um, Beautiful, beautiful entry point here from a portage. So, just really one of my favorite areas of the Boundary Waters. Um, this site from Little Saganaga to just before Mora Lake. So let's see. I guess that would be in right in this area. Oh yeah, right here. This is right before that portage. Um, that's where these pictures are taken, and it's just really gorgeous. And that portage across there, you're hearing the water flowing and everything. As I mentioned, Tuscarora was completely booked out. People at every single campsite. So late afternoon decision to keep going turned out to be a good decision. Had some biting flies on that trip. They were kind of a nuisance, but ended up spending 2 nights right here at this campsite um, on Missing Link Lake. The rating here is pretty low, and I agreed, but the guys in our group really thought it was good, and it ended up being a pretty decent site. So sunrise on Missing Link Lake there. We definitely made it work and had a good time hanging out. Um, just enjoying what you do up in the Boundary Waters. Pudgy pies were also desserts, and yeah, evening talks as always. So great trip, good route, definitely recommendable. But don't plan on staying on Tuscarora because it's a busy lake.